the cop who took the place of the police chief who lost control of everything, Peter Slowly, was Steve Bell. And guess who was in charge of the intel and passing it up the supply chain? Steve Bell. You want to talk about sabotage? I don't know if it's me being a conspiracy theorist or not, but the guy in charge of accepting the intel and drafting a plan around the intel wasn't feeding it up to the cop who needed it. And then he takes the place of the cop who lost control of everything because of a lack of intel. It's crazy stuff. But at the end of the day, ineptitude and political policing does not justify the invocation of a never before used counterterrorism law on peaceful protesters causing a traffic snarl in the nation's capital.
And Sheila, we would be remiss if we don't again mention that this is the same Steve Bell that the Sunday press conference the OPS held, that was the day after Alexa was shot by that canister. And that was a viral news item. It ran around the world. In fact, just an hour before the press conference, Alexa was getting interviewed by Russian television, if you can imagine. And we went there and I asked Acting Chief Bell about what the status of the investigation is with Alexa Lavoie being shot. And he said he was not aware of it. There's only two possibilities. This is really one hell of an ignorant law enforcement officer, Sheila, or he was lying through his teeth because this was going around the world. What was your take on that answer?
He's an absolute liar, and I'll tell you why. First of all, we have filed for access to information for police records and police communications during the time of the convoy. They say they can't release them to us until after the commission wraps up, and I think that means after Justice Rollo makes his ruling. And the reason they're doing that is because they don't want us to fact check them in real time. And I can tell you that Navigator was not the only crisis communications firm working for the city of Ottawa and the Ottawa Police. And one of those firms, which I'm doing a story on it today, and I'm so glad you reminded me of his Chief Bell's interim former police chief Bell. I want to be clear there. He's no longer the interim chief. His ignorance, his feigned ignorance about what happened to Alexa. One of these crisis communications firms, one of their only jobs was to monitor social media for police reputational blowback. And I have the documents on one of these audits where it's police, like the public's response on social media to the police is negative. They were monitoring the responses to every police tweet. And so for them to say that this story that was so huge around the world, they didn't have a clue about, absolutely, utterly unbelievable. And if they really didn't have a clue about it, it's a wonder that any crime ever gets solved in Ottawa, because those cops are useless.
It's absolutely incredible. And let's talk a little bit about who Navigator is. And before we do, Sheila, I want to throw to a clip. It was from a monologue I did a few years ago when one of the principals of Navigator, she went on a talk radio tour crying that she was a victim of a form of sexual assault. What was the incident? She thought when she was crossing the street, a construction worker might have looked at her. She thought. Check it out, folks.
Amanda, who likens herself to animated princesses on her Twitter feed, is walking down Richmond Street in broad daylight, I tell you, and she was brutally sexually assaulted. And Amanda, being a communications professional, she tweeted about it, about how Toronto the good became Toronto the terrible. Here goes, quote, "I just walked through around a dozen men lining the sidewalk at 85 Richmond Street. They didn't say a word, but they openly leered at me. I felt so uncomfortable. I did not make eye contact. I don't know who runs this site, see photo, but this is not okay," end quote. How can this be? Those men, they leered at precious Amanda, moon of my life, my sun, my stars, my Khaleesi. Oh, what evil lurks in the hearts of men. Oh, the toxic masculinity of it all. Look at them just looking at her. Damn it, no Gillette shavers for those insensitive sons of bitches. Hey folks, that was an excerpt from my show, Rebel Roundup. Now, to get the full meal deal, why not go to Rebel News Plus, sign up, and never miss a Rebel News Plus show in the future.